Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come and spend some time visiting with you. One of the things that is a disadvantage of being a department chair is I don't teach classes at the undergraduate level. And so I don't have a lot of opportunities to get acquainted with you all. So I regret that because in my past career, I've always taught classes and always worked with students. And so that's something that you kind of miss when you don't have that opportunity anymore. So I appreciate your inviting me, JC, and look forward to just visiting with you a little bit. I won't say a lot about me, but I'd be willing to answer any questions. I am a registered dietitian. I have been a dietitian since 1976. So tell me, was anybody even born in 1976? No. So before you all were born, I was a dietitian. I did my undergraduate degree at Oklahoma State University, and in the old days, as you'll see through your career and as I've seen through my career, the dietetics profession just keeps evolving and changing. And so in the old days when I became a dietitian, and I'm glad to tell you there are lots of dietitians who are a whole lot older than me, so they always put the 50-year members in the journal. So I always look at those, but I'm not there yet. So anyway, but in the days when I was a student, you could apply for 2 dietetic internships. And so you shopped around, but in some ways it made it a little bit easier because you all can apply for as many as you want, right? And so you have to do a lot of research, and then you have to prioritize and put your materials together. And so I had to shop around a little bit, and then I graduated in December instead of May, which also was kind of an interesting thing because there are fewer internships that were available at that point in time. So I thought through my strategy and thought, okay, I had done a summer practicum at Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago. So that put me in Chicago, and that kind of gave me a base of experience in a hospital and in a hospital in Chicago. So while I was there, I visited Cook County Hospital. And I don't even think I'd want to be within 90 miles of Cook County Hospital these days because it's basically kind of the indigent hospital in inner city Chicago. And they had an internship, and I thought, okay, I should have a good chance of getting that one, right? Because I had the hospital experience in Chicago. And I went and visited while I was there, so I thought, that's my ace in the hole. And then there was a 6-month internship at Indiana University School of Medicine. And I wanted that one because it was 6 months, as much as anything. I have to be perfectly honest. So I applied for both of them, and I was fortunate that I got both of them, and so I was able to go to Indiana University. And that was an interesting 6 months. And I'm sure internships have stayed the same, and they've changed a little bit. Healthcare has changed a lot. When I was an intern at IU Med Center, it was a brand new hospital. We had new facilities, beautiful facilities. We had outstanding food service, and I was more interested in that always than the clinical. So anyway, I did my internship and have had kind of an interesting career. Probably during my internship, I probably thought I would go out and be a dietitian, running a food service operation of some sort. But an opportunity came up in Extension. So I went back to Oklahoma, which is my home state, worked for Extension as an Extension nutrition specialist, and got my master's degree, and then realized, I have to get a PhD because I'm at a university, and if you're at a university and you don't have a PhD, you're kind of feeling like, sometimes you feel like you're not, you're kind of a second-class citizen because I don't have that doctor in front of my name. So I went to Ohio State and did my PhD. Amber's almost to get, Mrs. House is almost to get her PhD, right? And so I looked at her because I think she probably knows what I'm talking about, just that that's kind of the culture of a university. So I did that, and then I've taught a lot of different places. And I've also worked for a research institute that focused on research related to child nutrition programs. I say that by way of illustrating that what you think you're going to be doing at this point in your life is probably far different than what you're going to wake up 20 years from now and find, my career took a little bit different path than I thought. How many of you today think you're going to go out and be a clinical dietitian? Okay, a few. How many of you think you're going to work in a WIC program? Nobody? How many of you think you're going to go out and do individual wellness and health kinds of education and training? Okay, all right. Anybody going to do something that I didn't already name? Okay, that kind of covers it? Okay. What you find, I think, in the dietetics profession is there are lots of opportunities, and they're diverse opportunities, and you don't even know where you're going to live and what your life is going to bring, and so you may find that you're doing some very different things than you think you are. So graduate education, that's likely to be in your future. Somewhat over half of dietitians have graduate degrees. And for those of you who really like school and really see yourself teaching and being an educator, being a mentor to young people, there's a shortage of people with PhDs. So today, when Mrs. House gets her PhD finished, she could probably, and if that were right now, she could probably pick from about 20 universities across the country that she could be employed at. So there are just lots of opportunities out there. So I would encourage you to get some work experience and then pursue graduate education. But keep in mind that there would be some really great opportunities if you decide you want to keep going and get your PhD. So I kind of challenge you to think about that. Okay, what do you want to know about graduate school and graduate education? And I'm just going to make a list and make sure that I cover the things that you want me to cover. I told you I would be very informal, right?
Could you tell us a little bit about the application process?
Okay, all right. So you want to know something about the application process. Okay, what else?
Just kind of like how your time is broken down. Like I know now we spend a lot of time in class and may have a part-time job, but how does that change in grad school?
Okay, okay. Okay?
Yes, ma'am, I have a couple things. One, the Masters of Public Health here, I do not believe is accredited. So
Okay.
can you speak on the importance of choosing a master's program that is accredited? And also to go with the time allocation. There's different routes that I believe you can take when you do a master's. You can do the, do you know, what am I asking? You have to-
Like online or
Yes,
on
thesis,
campus,
on
distance,
campus.
not, okay. So, okay, and distance or on campus? Okay.
Maybe advantages and disadvantages of getting a master's degree concurrently with an internship versus, say, doing a master's before or after an internship, dietetics.
Okay. Okay, what else? Anything else?
I would love to hear too, anything, any advice that you would have for the students prior to them applying to internships or applying to graduate degrees, what do you feel they
Okay.
should do to set themselves apart?
Okay. Okay. Anything else? If you do, we'll do some questions. So let me kind of think about the order. First, advice prior to application. And I'm going to give you a little bit of traditional advice versus, I think you're going to find that opinions vary a lot in the field. And I hold on to a little bit of tradition, and I'll tell you why. One bit of advice that I would give you is get a little bit of work experience before you apply to a graduate program, and even in some ways to an internship. You're getting some work experience, but that kind of helps you nail down the kind of internship. But it really becomes important for graduate school, in my opinion. Other people say, go straight through and it doesn't really matter. But I think you choose your graduate program based on what you really want to do. If you really want to work with, as a clinical dietitian, and you want to work in pediatrics, then you're going to choose courses that support that. But if you go to graduate school and you don't yet recognize that that's really what your passion is, then you're going to get your graduate degree, and it might be in courses that don't really support what you really see you're developing your expertise in. So to me, a graduate degree helps develop some specificity and some expertise at an advanced level. So it's not just kind of more of the same, but it's starting to, I work with graduate students a lot, and I always say, okay, we go from something very general to something very specific. So right now you're generalists, and you can go in lots of different directions. After your master's degree, it kind of starts narrowing down a little bit. So my advice is get a little bit of experience, try out a few things, and one of the advantages of if you go into the coordinated program or if you go into a dietetic internship, you do rotations in lots of different areas. So you're going to be exposed to clinical, you're going to be exposed to management, to community, and then that will help you start to decide where you really want to focus. So take some time to figure that out. So I wouldn't hurry a lot. The other thing is you have to kind of think forward to where you think you'll want to go in the future. One of the questions you ask is some of the different options. When I go into graduate school, do I do a thesis or do I not do a thesis? Well, I would say to you, if you ever want to do a PhD, you better do a thesis. Because that's practice. And you just develop some skills doing a research project that you have to do for a master's thesis that is just invaluable for doing your PhD dissertation. So, again, I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. So I probably, since I don't know, then I might go ahead and choose to do a thesis because then I'm covered either way, right? So I would encourage you to think about that. One of the things that a thesis does, it helps you learn the research process from visualizing a project, identifying a need, all the way to collecting data, analyzing data, and then writing. It will help you develop some really good writing skills, and I think we underestimate the need to be able to write. And that's a skill that I see declining in students. That's really a very important skill. And so that's kind of an advantage of doing a thesis option rather than a non-thesis option. We offer a distance program and we offer an on-campus program. Again, kind of a similar kind of thing. If I think that my master's degree is going to be the last degree I ever get, then an online might be advantageous if I don't have access to a good university to get my degree. If I think I'm going to go on with my graduate work, then being on an on-campus program where you have research opportunities and you have closer faculty mentoring, that can be very, very helpful to you. So part of it depends on what your circumstances are. So if I'm in, I may be living in a place where I don't have access to a Kansas State University or an Ohio State University or whatever. So then a distance program can be very important. Other things to think about in terms of the routes. What are you going to get your degree in? Some of you may say, I need more depth in nutrition, so I want to get a nutrition degree. Somebody else may say, I'd really like to get more into marketing, nutrition, and some of the business concepts. So you might get a marketing degree, or you might get an MBA. You might decide, a lot of you were interested in health and health promotion. There are health promotion degrees that you can get. So, you know, there are lots of options, and thinking about what it is that helps you develop your expertise really becomes very important as you think through that process. Accreditation. The MPH program at Kansas State is going through accreditation process right now, and you're aware of that. So we had site visitors on campus, I think, not this week, but last week, and from what I hear, that went well. Dean Buckwalter told me today that he thinks from the exit interview and everything that it probably will become accredited. No matter what, you're getting your degree from an accredited university. So that's probably the most important thing. But hopefully that'll be a moot point at Kansas State. If there's a program that's accredited, that's probably stronger than one that's not accredited. But in the scheme of things, I don't think anybody ever goes back and says, oh, she's got this degree from that school. I don't think in 2015 when she got her degree it was accredited or not accredited. I think it's more the school and the weight of the school, but you're likely to get it from an accredited university. So accreditation is this kind of multi-layered thing. Kansas State University is accredited. And some of you may remember that K-State went through accreditation last year, and that's when we had site visitors and they looked at everything about the university. So there's that level of accreditation to the individual programs. So our coordinated program is accredited. Our didactic program is accredited. Our hospitality management program is accredited. So you have to, at the undergraduate level in dietetics, you have to graduate from an accredited program. At the master's, there's really, except for like an MPH program, there's not really an accreditation. So our master's degree programs are not accredited, but they're from an accredited university. So it's a quality program, if that kind of makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Application process. Varies a little bit from university to university, but most universities you fill out a general application to the university. Most universities would require that you take a GRE and have a GRE score. They may or may not have a minimum or a cut score. You would just need to find out and go online and look carefully at their requirements. You always have to show your transcript, and so they're always interested in your GPA. Typically For a graduate program, they look at a 3.0 or higher. A lot of times, a student will say, well, and this doesn't happen with dietetic students a lot because you all are pretty grade conscious from the get-go. But sometimes we look at, as you progress through your program, do your grades get stronger? So some of those kinds of things get looked at. Letters of recommendation. So we have, for our program, we have a scoring, a rating scale, and your referees would rate you on certain criteria, and then we would use that as an assessment. We probably don't put as much weight on recommendations as we do on GRE scores and grade point average. So probably grade point average is the number one thing we look at. We also have a personal statement that we ask students to prepare, and that tells us why you're interested in graduate school. What are the pursuits that you want to make in graduate school? Is there a specific area? Sometimes we look at that just to see how you're thinking through the process, and then sometimes we think about it in terms of match with our faculty. Because you need to work with a faculty member, well, you work with all the faculty members, but then you're going to have a major professor that's going to guide you through your research process particularly. And so if you're interested in doing, PKU, and we have nobody who really has much expertise in that area, then we might say, well, you'd really be better suited to go someplace else, that we might not be able to meet your needs here. So one of the things as you're applying to graduate schools, go online and read about the faculty and find out what their interests and their research expertise is, and then partly pick a program based on where you find a good match. So don't select a graduate program only because it's convenient. Okay? And that's kind of a tendency sometimes. And it's maybe what's convenient, what can we afford, that sort of thing. But maybe try to break out of that just a little bit and see there is funding out there. So you could apply, get a graduate assistantship, that would cover your tuition, that would cover a stipend. And so you might be able to go to a graduate school that maybe you hadn't thought about. So kind of explore, and also talk with faculty here, because if we know what your interests are, we can kind of help match you up and give you some recommendations of some places that might be good places to go for graduate school. Time allocation. I heard somebody say something about working versus going to school, and most of us these days need to be able to work and have some income. That's why I would really encourage you to apply for graduate assistantships. And so with a graduate assistantship, if you get one of those, typically you work 20 hours a week, and typically it's with one of your professors. Likely it could be your major professor. It might be working on a research project. So right now we have graduate students who work with professors on providing teaching support for courses. We also have graduate students that are actually working on research projects with us. So we have external funding that would support the student. So in that case, you work 20 hours a week and you take courses. If you have an assistantship, typically faculty want you to place emphasis on your coursework, and so things get scheduled around when you take classes, which is a little bit different than if I'm employed at the local hospital and I have my schedule there and then I have to fit classes around that. That can be done as well, but you have to look at the flexibility of those courses. And that frankly is why some people are really attracted to online programs, because they are asynchronous, they can take them whenever they want to take them. Did I answer all the questions on the list? Do you have others? Or did I totally confuse you? Yes,
Do you think
ma'am.
having a master's would really help you get a job, or would it not really matter?
I think it really depends on where you're looking for a job. The trend is that by, is it 2024, there will be a master's required for entry level. So that's going to mean that more and more dietitians are going to be getting master's degrees. Sometimes it yields better pay, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that might be the competitive edge you might have over someone else. I would certainly hope that a master's helps you go further faster in your career. I would hope that it would open up some opportunities for more leadership roles, a little bit higher paying jobs. Would I say you graduate in May, you need to go by fall and be in a graduate program? No, I wouldn't say that. But I think it should be in probably your 5-year goals. But I don't think it's going to be in your 1 or 2 year goals. There was a question about internships with graduate degrees. That's an efficient way to do it. So I would not discourage you from considering those options, because usually they kind of streamline and dovetail some of the things that you do for your internship. You get some credit for it, and so that can be an efficient way. So I would not discourage you from doing that, for sure. Other questions? How many of you are applying for internships this year? Okay, several of you. And the ones who don't have hands raised, is it because you're lower classmen? Okay, you're not quite at graduation yet. Okay, good. Well, I wish you success in your coursework. Make that a priority, and then be sure and get some good work experience out in the field that will help you figure out what it is you really want to do. And then just keep your mind open to opportunities and doing things that you never thought you would be doing. I think there are some exciting opportunities out there, and I think a lot of our students are really doing some really good things and in leadership positions, and so keep your mind open to opportunities that might be out there. And I'm in 104, 103. I'm in 103. You can go to 104 and you can get into 103. If you have questions, if you need more information, or if you just sometime need to talk about something, please stop by, and I will be happy to visit with you. I appreciate having time to spend with you and answer some questions. And so if others pop up, stop by and see me or email me. Okay, good luck.